Yo, what's up? It's your boy Dizzy Vibes back on Vibe CTRL, where we keep the culture talking and the facts balanced. So this one right here was a sub comment, so shout out to Dylan Robertson for dropping this down in the comments. So today we gonna be diving into the story of Mac Miller, an artist who years after his passing, his legacy still echoes to his fans. Now I'm gonna be real with y'all. I didn't grow up bumping Mac Miller heavy like that, but he was still one of those artists. Like, if you didn't spin him daily, you still knew his name. He was that kind of artist you respected because how pure the art felt. From Donald Trump to self-care, from a kid making mixtapes in Pittsburgh to one of the most influential artists of his generation. See, now the story ain't about fame, it's about growth and pain and how his legacy became timeless. And what made this video even more special, this year marks the 10th anniversary of his album, Good AM. An album that showed his maturity, just trying to grow as both a man and as an artist. So before I get into it, I need y'all to hit that like button, comment y'all favorite Mac Miller song down below, subscribe too, because we about to keep the memory alive of a true artist gone too soon.
Fame is tricky because you read what's said about you, then you know what you know to be true, and the lines start to blur.
Mac Miller was born Malcolm James McCormick on January 19th, 1992 in Point Breeze, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. His dad, Mark, was an architect and his mom, Karen, was a photographer. Both creative parents, which explains a lot.
They were very supportive of me being creative. I always did music from the time I was like 6, and my mom's a photographer and my dad's an architect. So as long as I finished school, they were really supportive. My brother, he was very supportive. My brother does all my visual art.
And he grew up surrounded by music. He actually ended up teaching himself how to play instruments on his own: piano, bass, guitar, you name it. And by middle school, he was already writing and recording his own music. Mac Miller would go up under a whole bunch of aliases, but he first started off going under Easy Mac, just a teenage kid, just living his dream. In 2007, he would end up dropping his first mixtape, But My Mackin' Ain't Easy, and it was a small project, but it ended up getting a whole bunch of local buzz.
I called myself Easy Mac because I was 15. I was just kind of joking around, I didn't really expect that to be like my rap name, but I know what to call myself. And then it was kind of like, I just was like, all right, I was young. I was like almost like turning 16 when I decided to change my name. But I was like, yeah, it was like time to be a real artist, and I wanted to make real music and serious music and stuff to be taken seriously, and you just can't do that with that name.
Then he started picking up a little bit more local buzz after he linked up with another Pittsburgh rapper in the area named Beatty, and they ended up making the group Ill Spoken. And by 2010, Mac was turning heads nationwide. He ended up dropping his project Kids, kicking incredible dope shit, and then this was the first project that ended up making the internet stop and listen. Tracks like Senior Skip Day, The Spins, and Nikes on My Feet showed off his charisma, laid back energy, and confidence. And then that same year, he would end up signing with independent record label Rostrum Records, the same record label as Wiz Khalifa, who was also from the Pittsburgh area and who would later co-sign Mac Miller.
First time meeting Mac Miller was at ID Labs, probably about 2009. I'm pretty sure he was still in high school, and I was out of high school for sure, because when I graduated, he was a freshman. Yeah, it was in the studio. I was coming home off of tour, and he was basically in there doing the same thing that I was doing at his age, just working and soaking up game and putting his homies on.
In 2011, he would end up releasing his debut album, Blue Slide Park, and it would debut #1 on the Billboard 200, and it would be the first independent album to do so in over 16 years. And then critics weren't kind, just how they aren't to any other early artists. They gave him a 1.0 on Pitchfork and said it was frat rap and was comparing him to Wiz Khalifa and Eminem early off in his career. But Mac just shrugged it off and evolved. And something else that's wild that happened in 2011, Mac Miller would end up dropping a song, Donald Trump, and it wasn't supposed to be meant as a flex. It was just a young rapper just saying he wanted to be as rich as Donald Trump. It ended up going platinum, selling multiple singles and everything. And then Trump would end up tweeting Mac Miller too. He would go on saying, "Lil Mac Miller, you illegally used my name for your song Donald Trump, which now has over 75 million hits." And that's just crazy. Like, what started off as a playful reference, like, came as a full circle moment. And by 2012, Mac seemed to be growing up fast. He ended up dropping his project Macadelic. It was a trippy, self-aware project that talked about depression, fame, and drugs. And songs like Thoughts from the Balcony and Fighting the Feeling featuring Kendrick Lamar proved that he was more than just a college rapper. This showed fans that he was actually an artist searching for deeper meaning. He would later on end up moving to Los Angeles, where he ended up building a home studio called The Sanctuary, and then he would surround himself with amazing artists like Earl Sweatshirt and Vince Staples. And this is where the experimentation really began.
It started by me just sitting inside all day, and then it's like, then you get bored. then you're like, well, I could just be high and I could have a whole adventure in this room. I'm always like, if someone's like, you want to try this? I'm like, yeah, sure. And then it just kind of fucks you up when you have a bunch of money. Cause like.
Then came Faces in 2014, a mixtape that fans still say is one of his best. It was chaotic, raw, and honest. And Mac was open about his addiction and mental struggles with bars like, I should have died already. I came in, I was high already. And this showed behind all the humors and smiles, he still was fighting demons. In 2016, Mac released The Divine Feminine, a soulful, jazzy project that celebrated love and vulnerability. And in this era, going on forward would be heavily inspired by his relationship with Ariana Grande. These two have been friends for years and collaborated on the track The Way in 2013. It was speculated that they was dating, but this video and the song end up like showing their chemistry to the world.
So what about Ariana, man? There was rumors that you and Ariana Grande.
No, that's a friend of mine. That's a friend of mine, and we just made music together.
Oh, so y'all didn't date? That was going around.
No, she has a boyfriend, some Australian dude.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Their relationship would blossom years later, and then it wasn't about the lights and the glory to them. It was genuine. Fans would end up saying that their relationship was one of the most wholesome ones in the music game. When they end up breaking up in 2018, there would be drama on the internet between the two, but not really, because they would try to both play it down in interviews and everything.
It's not that unique, you know? Like, I was in love with somebody. We were together for 2 years. We worked through good times, bad times, stress, and everything else. And then it came to an end, and we both moved on. And it's that simple.
And then when Mac would end up passing later that year, fans would unfairly blame Ariana for it, saying that she had caused most of his depression. And she would end up handling all this with grace, paying tribute on stage and posting heartfelt messages saying how much he meant to her and how they were friends for so long, and that she adored him to the fullest. Later on in 2018, Mac would end up dropping Swimming. And this project was special to fans, not only because it was the year that he passed away. They said this was his most complete, mature, and introspective work up to date. Tracks like Self-Care 2009 and So It Goes showed a man trying to find balance and not pretending to be healed, but learn how to swim instead of drown. And he was planning the tour, creating visuals, and seeing the good place. Focused, calm, and hopeful. But just a month later, tragedy struck.
Fans and neighbors leaving flowers, candles, notes on rapper Mac Miller's doorstep. Those close to him struggling with the fact that he is gone at the age of 26.
On September 7, 2018, Mac was found unresponsive in his Studio City home. When they later found him and then ran tests on his bloodstream, they ended up finding a number of drugs in his system: fentanyl, cocaine, and alcohol. And then sadly, later on it would be discovered that the pills that he took were counterfeit oxycodone laced with fentanyl. And this case would lead to multiple arrests: Cameron Pettit, Ryan Rivas, and Stephen Walter, who was all charged and convicted for supplying the drugs. And this case went nationwide, well, I could really say worldwide, because Mac Miller was an amazing artist, and this just shed more light on the epidemic on fentanyl. But even after his death, Mac's story didn't end. Producer John Bryan, who had been working with Mac closely, had finished his posthumous album called Circles in 2020. And it was like the spiritual sequel to Swimming, soft, reflective, and peaceful. And songs like Good News and Surf had some fans feeling like it wasn't goodbye, it was closure. And Mac Miller wasn't just a rapper. He was a storyteller, a producer, a dreamer, and a human being who put his truth into his art. He went from being clowned for his early music to being respected as one of the most creative and honest artists from his era. Artists like Logic, J. Cole, and Tyler, the Creator have acknowledged his impact and growth. He was proof that it was okay to change, to grow, to fall apart, and to rebuild. Mac Miller's story is bittersweet. It shows that genius often carries heavy burdens. He never really tried to fit in, he was just trying to be real. And his music aged with him, from teenage years to adult introspection. Even years later, fans still quote his music, pay tribute to him, and say how his music changed their lives. He made music for people who felt too deep, thought too deep, and loved too hard. And for that, Mac Miller will always be more than a name. He'll be a feeling. It's been your boy Dizzy Vibes here on Vibe CTRL, where we keep the culture talking and the facts balanced. Would like to say rest in peace to Mac Miller, and shout out to all his fans and the person that has suggested this in the comments. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe, and check out my last videos if you liked this one. Thank you. I'm gone.